The United States of America is not mentioned in the Bible as it relates to end times Bible prophecy. Folks, there's a reason for that. America is rapidly becoming irrelevant under the current leadership of the regime in office, and the problem of Iran is becoming more prominent. None of this should be a surprise to you if you are a student of Bible prophecy, so get ready. This story's a doozy. Here we go. Oh, guys, I have so much to say about this story. And when I read it, I'm just going to tell you, you're going to hear a couple of videos. One is Ibrahim Raisi of Iran. I don't like giving this guy a platform, but I want to expose his wickedness. I'm going to play a video of him speaking at the United Nations, which, by the way, is openly anti-Semitic. We'll just leave that alone. And I also want to play one of the ambassadors to the UN representing Iran regarding basically the same issue that encapsulates all of what we're talking about today. Now, what has sort of inspired me to have this conversation with you is a title that showed up in the media that basically says, United States posts unprecedented picture of nuclear submarine in naked warning to Iran. Let me read this to you. This is just unbelievably astounding. It's absolutely astounding. It says United States military officials announced Sunday they had sent a guided missile submarine to the Middle East as the Israel-Hamas war reaches the 1-month mark, even releasing a rare photo of the powerful vessel. The photo, I don't understand. I'm telling you, the Bible tells us all kinds of things about the end times and names all kinds of nations in the end times, and the United States of America is not named in any of that. They are inconsequential in Bible prophecy for a lot of reasons, and good old Biden and his regime are accelerating what will be the inconsequentiality of the United States because of their insane, wild, out-of-control decisions. Look at this. It says, on November 5th, 2023, an Ohio-class submarine arrived in the U.S. Central Command area of responsibility. U.S. Central Command made this post, by the way, just so that you know. The post included a photo of the Ohio-class submarine apparently traversing the Suez Canal just north of Cairo. We'll put that up so you guys can see that. The submarine can carry 154, yes, folks, 154 Tomahawk missiles, each of which can hold up to 1,000 pounds of explosives in their warheads. Folks, that's an insane amount of power. CENTCOM's announcement Sunday night came just hours after Iranian Defense Minister Mohammad Reza Ashtini warned the Biden administration to call for a ceasefire. And yes, it was a threat. It wasn't a warning. It was a threat. Our advice to the Americans is to immediately stop the war in Gaza and implement a ceasefire. Otherwise, they will be hit hard. This is Ashtini warning this. This is his quote, right? What a crazy, crazy thing to say, especially to the United States of America. He also accused the U.S. of being militarily involved in the war in Israel. The U.S. Navy had previously announced that 2 aircraft carrier strike groups, the Gerald R. Ford and the Dwight D. Eisenhower, launched aircraft and missile defense during a 3-day exercise in the Mediterranean Sea. Boy, can things get any more complicated in the Mideast? It's just unbelievable. Let me read the rest of this. Military leaders have also previously announced the deployment of around 1,000 American soldiers and the engagement of an unspecified number of special operations commandos who are advising the Israeli army. Pentagon spokesman Brigadier General Pat Ryder claimed last month that the buildup of U.S. military assets in the Middle East was aimed at deterring regional escalation of the war in Israel and protecting the U.S. and its allies. Yeah, right. That sure makes sense. Since that Hamas terrorist attack, we've been crystal clear that we do not want to see the situation in Israel widen into a broader regional conflict. I'm sorry, but that's kind of a hard one. I'm sorry. That's just a very, very hard one for me to believe. We'll just leave that be. And guys, General Ryder adds this to his quote. He says, and as you've heard, President Biden, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, and other senior U.S. officials say our message to any country or group thinking about trying to take advantage of this situation to widen the conflict is don't. Yes, it sounds very strong, doesn't it? Secretary of State Antony Blinken is visiting the Middle East in a desperate attempt to negotiate peace. That's what they're saying. But you're probably dealing with the wrong group of people, because look at what this paragraph says. He met with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas for about an hour Sunday, after also meeting with Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani in Baghdad, as well as officials in Turkey. Folks, why in the world can you even begin to think that this nonsense is believable? I know they're meeting with these people, and I know that all of this is going on, but as you have been hearing, as we've been talking about, the United States has contributed to this nonsense. But here's the question that I would ask. How do you deal with Iran when Iran has no desire for peace? This is a religious pursuit for them. This is something that is idealistically based, with the understanding that the Quran regulates their views concerning these things. I am going to play Ibrahim Raisi, okay? He is an absolute animal. He is an evil man. There is nothing about him that's righteous. He is a very, very dark human being, okay? Listen to what he says. As I play this, of course it's being translated, so it's not going to do complete justice. He is going to explain to you that his detail is based upon the inscriptions of the Quran. Listen to what he says. I hope this will make sense to you, because it should be eye-opening. Take a listen.
I congratulate you and give you felicitations on the 78th General Assembly of the United Nations. Since last year, when I addressed everyone from this podium, the world has witnessed bitter as well as sweet events. But the world, nearly 8 decades following the establishment of the United Nations, the new session of the General Assembly.
By the way, I want to stop to tell you this. When he talks about bitter events, he is not referring to what happened on October 7th, because this address here happened almost a month before October 7th took place. So this is before his proxies that were planning this attack did this. By the way, they were planning this attack while this man was sharing what he was sharing. They were working with Hamas and other people to attack Israel while he's sharing this nonsense. There's a reason why they call him the Butcher of Tehran.
Commences as the world is experiencing unprecedented and historic changes. Meanwhile, the assurance of a luminous future for human society lies in the devoted observance of lofty virtues that guide people towards excellence and noble ideals. What better source than the word of the Creator?
What better source than the word of the Creator? He's basically saying, what better source than al-Kalam al-Quran? But what better source than the words of the Quran, the words of Allah? That's in essence what he's going to imply here.
To encapsulate the essence of humanity and elevate the inherent values of mankind. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, the Holy Quran beckons humanity towards rationality, spirituality, the truth, and justice. It expounds upon the unity of mankind, proclaiming all earthly inhabitants. It seeks to guide all towards human dignity, which will lead to the blessings sought by mankind. What has the...
By human dignity, does he mean the murder to anybody who doesn't comply with Allah? Does he mean the destruction of the infidels? Does he mean death to the United States of America? Does he mean the elimination of the Jewish state? That's what dignity is all about?
Quran said to infuriate and focus the attention of those who seek power and hold the reins of power. The Quran says humans do not accept oppression. And with this pursuit, you will be able to reach elevated divine values. The Quran speaks of equality among humans. It says that they were all created equally from a single mother and father. The Quran, even though there are differences, natural differences between men and women, sees them as completing one another and direct in the eyes of the Creator and equal in the eyes of the Creator. The Quran defends the sanctity of the family and sees children as gifts entrusted to us by God.
Sees children as gifts entrusted to them by God, yet he directed and helped plan the active elimination of a whole bunch of children, Jewish children specifically, and doesn't mind actually murdering his own children for the cause and effect associated with the whole infrastructure of Islam. Really? Come on, guys. I hope you all see the hypocrisy of all of this nonsense.
Moreover, the Quran believes in serving those who have less than we do, and it directs our beliefs and faiths as forbidden, recognizing the sanctity of these values. Is this the first time that the words of God, of the Omnipotent, are being burned? Presuming while they do so that they can extinguish the divine voice for eternity? Did Nimrod, Pharaoh, Caron, and Caesar triumph over Abraham, Moses, and Jesus? The Quran forbids all forms of violence in human interactions and deems respect towards Abraham, Moses, and Jesus on par and equal to with the sanctity for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
You understand that he's a liar, right? Like, you understand that he's completely lying through his teeth. You understand that when he says that, he's not even telling the truth about what the representations of his religion is. And you also understand that he is one of the most violent men alive right now. He is perhaps the most violent leader alive. He is vicious and ruthless. There's a reason why he has earned the title, the Butcher of Tehran. Think about that for a minute.
For the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. These understandings that bring unity and divine teachings that inspire, that build human characters, that build societies, that build progress for human societies will never be burned, is eternal. They remain impervious. The fires of disrespect will not overcome the truth, the divine truth.
Notice how he kisses the Quran when he talks about these attributes, and he holds the Quran in front of the whole world. He's doing what he believes he should be doing as a Shiite Muslim. He believes that holding the Quran over the whole world is, in essence, what his role is going to be. He is all about deception because the Quran teaches him to be deceitful. The Quran says that Allah is the chief of deceivers. We don't have to get into this, but this is very, very obvious. Let me finish just the last part of this. It's a 30-minute address, but I'm going to only finish probably the last 15, 20 seconds. Here we go.
Mr. President, Islamophobia and cultural apartheid witnessed in Western countries, evident in actions ranging from the desecration of the Holy Quran to the ban on hijab in schools and numerous other deplorable discriminations, are not worthy of human dignity. Even more concerning is that behind the scene there seems to be an agenda which seeks to divert attention with using the tool of freedom of speech. As one Westerner said, now that the West is faced with a crisis of identity, sees the world as a jungle and presents itself in the best of lights as a beautiful garden.
So notice that he is using the insanity of the alphabet mafia here in the United States to justify his position with respect to the confusion that creates a very blurred delineation between what's right and wrong from the camps of Western civilization. This is so much what it looks like when Satan works so closely with all of his operatives to accomplish a purpose. Now, I played that video to demonstrate to everybody that this is not something that is a politically motivated issue. This is something that is a religiously motivated issue. And if you don't believe me, look at the level of deception deployed by the United Nations representative of Iran, referring to the speech of Benjamin Netanyahu. Mind you, the speech of Ben Netanyahu was all about peace in the Middle East. Look at his response. He even refers to Israel as a regime. Look at what he has to say. You want to talk about deplorable? This is disgusting.
Is a model for the UN body and for all of us to never compromise enforcing the law on criminals, as the international community and primarily the Security Council have in addressing the dark record of brutalities and wrongdoings by the Israeli regime.
Notice how he's calling Israel criminals. Dark record of brutality amongst the Israelis, even though the Israelis are the ones who have extended the most kindness to Palestinians. Think about this for a second, folks. 22 Arab nations and 40 Muslim nations, and not a single one have extended any offer and have rejected every request ever made for Palestinians to become refugees in their countries. Yeah, folks, Israel's the only one taking them in.
What we heard today from the Israeli Prime Minister is nothing but floundering by a totally isolated regime. The baseless allegations made by the Israeli officials no longer fool anyone. Iran-phobic campaigns and widespread systematic dissemination of disinformation and unfounded allegations against Iran have always been one of the main elements of the statements, or better to say comedy shows, made by the Israeli authorities in this august body. The Islamic Republic of Iran categorically rejects and strongly condemns unfounded and unsubstantiated claims leveled against it, including those regarding its involvement in or attribution of UAVs used in the Ukraine war. Such baseless allegations, which are solely based on false flags and fabricated assumptions, are nothing more than a propaganda campaign launched by the certain states to further their political agenda.
Even though we have found Iranian drones actually being used in all of these operations, even though we've caught the Iranians red-handed, the United States of America included, have caught the Iranians red-handed in the sale of their drones, right? Think about this, folks. Think about what is going on everywhere. Look, can I just do this? Let me show you this picture right here, okay? This should say something right away. Think about how this works. These are Iranian drones. This is a UAV base at the Hassan airport. Look, wherever you go, these are weapons that we know about that are regularly being used. Hezbollah utilizes them every single day, and Iran provides it for them. He's a liar.
Indeed, the Israeli regime desperately attempts to distract attention away from its dark and abysmal record in harboring, financing, inducing, and arming the most dangerous terrorist networks, disseminating hate speech and extremist ideology, pursuing destabilizing policies and
The most dangerous terrorist networks. Can you name a single dangerous terrorist network that Israel is actually started or is using? There's not a single one. He's a liar, folks.
perpetrated by this Israeli regime. It cannot be ignored that the Israeli occupation and racism lie at the heart of all conflicts in the Middle East. The repulsive Israeli occupation has brought many crises and instability throughout the region. As such, it is ironic.
Isn't that incredibly disgusting what he just said? He said that Israeli occupation is the very thing that is the heart of all conflict that exists within the Middle East. Can you think of a more deplorable, ungodly, satanically inspired, and anti-Semitic statement? Look at the hate that is coming out of the mouth of this man. It is absolutely wicked. It is absolutely wicked.
It is ironic that the Prime Minister of the Israeli regime spoke about developing a regional peace initiative while his bloodthirsty regime planned to annex even more of the already occupied Palestinian territories. It goes without saying that Israeli regime, the last of apartheid regime,
Whole idea of annexation and the kind of nonsense that he's talking about. Israel wants to make a better life for the Palestinians. The Palestinians benefit from the things that Israel is doing. The Palestinians know that. Israel knows that. But when it's resisted, it makes for a much more difficult situation. And this liar, he knows that.
practicing and legalizing racism, seeks to ride the wave towards international legitimacy. It is a dreadfully regressive regime pretending to be progressive. Suffering from the lack of international legitimacy, the Israeli regime's representative addresses every irrelevant issue to distract attention from its political motives behind its racist policies.
Did you understand that he's saying basically that Israel is irrelevant to the rest of the world? Can you think of a more satanically inspired statement to make?
Condemning in the strongest possible terms all crimes committed by the Israeli regime against Palestinians, the Islamic Republic of Iran reiterates its support for the just cause of the Palestinian people and the full realization of all their inalienable rights, particularly their inherent right to self-determination, and to establish an independent Palestinian state throughout Palestine with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. The United Nations must put an immediate end to this unjustifiable and unacceptable trend and compel the Israeli regime to cease immediately and completely all its crimes against Palestinians, end the occupation of all Palestinian territories and occupation of the occupied Syrian Golan and parts of Lebanon, and to hold that regime accountable for committing the gravest international crimes for the last 7 decades. Thank you.
In other words, step aside so Hezbollah can act on their behalf as a proxy, and step aside so Hamas can act as a proxy. And of course, that's what they've been doing as of late. It's absolutely terrible. Guys, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The devil is the father of lies. We are so quickly headed to the scenario that we read about in Ezekiel 38. We are so quickly and rapidly headed to everything that we have been seeing according to the scriptures. The devil is a liar, and he is very good at what he's doing. Christians, I'm calling upon you, please pursue the truth. Please check everything out. Be like the Bereans. Go back and confirm and look and pay attention to the details. Stand up for what's the truth. It's not just enough to know the truth, but you have to stand up for it. The lies are prominent. But here's the great news, and here's the word of encouragement that I want to give you all. The Bible tells us that one day God wins. He's already won, actually. And we are going to watch that glorious victory. And the enemies of God will be destroyed. And we will watch the Lord bring into fruition all that he has promised us. To God be the glory, right? Great things he has done and greater things he's going to do. Keep your head high. Keep looking to the Lord. We are absolutely in the last days, and we're watching it happen right before us. God bless you.